Welcome to this welcome webinar. This is sort of maybe the first of a few, but it's meant to be super informal, allow us to have a chance to get to know each other and answer questions you might have. There's been some burning questions on the group chat about registration. We can answer those for you. And that type of thing. But my name is Rob Morgan. I'm the director of Beyond Boundaries. My home department is performing arts in the area of design. I don't do anything in front of the stage. It's all backstage stuff. If I try to act, I turn bright red. But I've been at WashU. I can't believe it now. 10 years. I just finished my 10th year at WashU, and my oldest daughter, is graduating this Friday. She's graduating this Friday. So I'm a commencement volunteer for commencement because there was until yesterday a cap on how many parents could be in attendance. So I was kind of skirting that. But I also have a younger daughter who is trans. She's going to be starting her second year at Missouri S&T, Science and Technology. So that's myself. My wife, Becky, is an activist for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense. And so she's very active in that particular anti-gun violence arena. So that's me. Performing arts department. I'm a drama nerd. I'll talk about theater and theater design all you want. But let me introduce our assistant director, Jenny Harpring.
Hello, everyone. I am Jenny, and my home department is the Brown School, which houses our programs of social work, public health, and social policy. And so I am actually kind of in between roles there right now. I oversee all of the field education, so all the internship and practicum for the school, and I'll be moving into the assistant dean for the social work program on July 1st. I've been at the university since 2008 and first worked at the Gephardt Institute for Civic and Community Engagement, which is the office on campus that's really thinking about how do we connect our students to the community in ways that are ethical and uphold our relationships with our communities, a group of great people. You'll also see my cat trying to crawl all over me right now. And then I moved to the Brown School about 5 years ago and have been at the Brown School since then. I'm an alum from the Brown School, and I have been with Beyond Boundaries. I have been with Beyond Boundaries as a faculty member teaching a Bear Bridge class for 2 years, and then as the assistant director for 1 year. So I'm starting my second year, and I'm super excited to hang out with you all.
We're very lucky to have you on this Beyond Boundaries team, Jenny. Thanks for being here, and congratulations on your new position, your new title.
Thank you.
I realize this graphic next to my head here, this one here, is not accurate anymore. I need to fix it. And last but not least, I like to say my left hand and quite often my right as well is Symone Picker. She's the program coordinator for Beyond Boundaries.
Thanks, Rob. Yes, congratulations, Jenny. And yeah, so excited to be here and see all of you. Just, excited for, what the fall will look like, and, that we'll be able to hopefully do some stuff in person. I came to WashU. I was born in South Africa. My family moved to Texas and to Dallas, Texas, and I came to WashU as an undergrad, and then ended up also going to the Brown School of Social Work. St. Louis is a great place. I think you guys will, if you're not already familiar with it, will see there's a lot of great things happening and a lot of ways to get involved. And just live nearby the university, and excited for the upcoming year.
Yeah, and a lot of students already know your two boys.
Yes.
At least they've seen the photo of their Purim costumes.
Yes, thanks, Rob.
So Noah and Lev.
Yes, thanks.
How old are they now? I feel like I'm...
Yeah, Noah is 9 and Lev is 6.
Wow, hard to believe. I also want to take an opportunity. We invited our TAs. We have 6 TAs for the Beyond Boundaries seminar. Being 60 at the moment, there are 60 of you. We wanted TAs to basically be 1 TA for every 10 of you. And we have a few, I believe, on the call tonight. I know I saw Aviva Aviva, do you want to lead off and just give us a quick introduction of who you are and what you're studying?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Aviva. I'm originally from Orlando, Florida. And at WashU, I'm in the business school. I'm planning to study finance and OSM. So if anyone here is interested in business and has questions, feel free to reach out. But it's good to meet everyone.
Yeah. I wonder if we have any others on the call here.
Jimmy's here.
Who's that? Jimmy? Hi, Jimmy.
Yes,
Yeah,
no, I'm
say
here.
hello.
My name's Jimmy. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm also in the Business School with Aviva. I'm still deciding on my major, but I'm minoring in international business and speech and hearing sciences. So reach out if you have any questions.
Fantastic. Nice. We also have, let's see, I don't see a Rachel here. We have Rachel Zimmerman Diaz, Campbell Sharp, Ulrika Wu,
I'm
and
here.
oh, sorry. All right, sorry, Rachel, I didn't see you there in my list. Please introduce
worries.
yourself.
Hi, guys. I'm Rachel. First of all, congratulations on getting into WashU and deciding to be part of the Beyond Boundaries program. It's such a great program. I am in the engineering school. I am planning on studying computer science and math as my first major, and then possibly doing a second major in arts and sciences with environmental studies. So if anyone has any questions on either of those things, let me know.
Fantastic. Do we have any others? It's tough to see that. Okay. So Campbell, Ulrika, and Desmond are the other 3 TAs for the Beyond Boundaries seminar. We have a great group. These are all second year Beyond Boundaries program students. And that might be actually a little shocking for them to hear, but they are second year students now. And they just finished up their first year in the seminar. So they're not that far ahead of you. They're really a great resource. Please lean on them for anything from advice to meal points, things like that. So, but please feel free to do that. All right. The next thing we thought we'd do is this kind of, I don't know, a kind of a super serious, not serious, kind of fun little poll to get things started as sort of an icebreaker. Apologies to the Conan O'Brien podcast. I kind of stole this from that podcast. We thought, what breakfast cereal mascot could you take in a bar fight? And there are 7 options here. There's Captain Crunch, which, by the way, the official name is with an apostrophe, Captain Crunch, Tony the Tiger. Oh, look, someone already voted on Tony the Tiger. Lucky Charms Leprechaun, Count Alfred Chocula. I didn't know the Count Chocula had a name, first name. Snap, Crapple, and Pop, the Rice Krispie Gang, Frankenberry, or the Trix Rabbit. We just thought it would be kind of funny and silly. Looks like a lot of people think they can take the leprechaun in a bar fight. This is so weird. Let's see, we got 97% of you, only a couple more have voted. Looks like I'm ending the polling now. Looks like you'd like to beat up the Lucky Charms leprechaun. So yes, there you go. I thought that was kind of, I don't know, a fun little icebreaker. Anyone want to support or their answer or quibble with anyone else's answer? Feel free. Feel free to in the chat or just unmute for a moment if you'd like. It depends on how late it is. Okay. Understood. Anyway, we thought that'd be kind of silly to get things started. I also want to share with you this. This is a, I'm going to spotlight, or no, I don't need to spotlight myself. This is with a shout out to Symone Picker. We like to do one of these word clouds for all of the, for each cohort of students. This is a word cloud created from all 60 of your essays, your application essays. And so you can get in a glance really what makes you all tick, essentially. And the largest words obviously mentioned more often in your essays. I think this is really an interesting kind of snapshot of how you all think. And congratulations again on getting into Beyond Boundaries. If you don't know, I told one of the moms this recently. There were 1,906 applications. Think about that, 1,900, almost 2,000 applications, and there are 60 of you. So it's a very special program. You deserve all of the accolades that is required to be a part of this special program. We're so glad that you're on board. Anyway, before I continue, I want to make sure I'm gonna I've shared, and I think in 2 different frames, with email and then through the group chat, the Beyond brochure, and that I think probably sparked some more questions, but maybe answered some other questions for you. So I want to kind of go through a little bit of that content and then just open it up for questions, and then we'll do a interesting breakout activity. But this Beyond brochure, by the way, there's a number of I shared this with the rising second years, the current second year students, some of who are on the call tonight, and said I tried to GM as many of you as I could onto the cover here. But I think one of the interesting questions was on advising. There's a whole page on advising. And then specifically, there's a form that you need to fill out sometime before the end of June on which Beyond Boundaries courses you would be taking. Let me clarify something for everybody. So a lot of students think that they have just one advisor, and that's it is true. You have a 4-year advisor who follows you through, but I like to think of it as more of a snowball. When you all enter WashU, you will have, at least by my count, 3 advisors right off the bat. There is your undergraduate dean advisor in the school that you basically identified when you applied to Beyond Boundaries. Remember, of the 4 undergraduate divisions, Beyond Boundaries is the thumb. You can always switch. So that is your assigned 4-year undergraduate advisor. But then you have Jenny and myself as your advisor on the Beyond Boundaries side of things, to talk about what your interests are in an interdisciplinary way, what classes you might want to take, and that type of thing. So right off the bat, you have 3 advisors. Like a snowball, you will continue to have more and more advisors. I have students that have 5 and 6 and 7 advisors, a major advisor, minor advisors, financial aid advisors. They're all over the place. So you'll have more advisors. You'll have lots of Christmas gifts, let's say, when it comes to advisors. But that's kind of how that works. So anything that you'd like to talk about on the Beyond Boundaries program side, from courses to expectations, points-based gatherings and programming and that type of thing, you ask myself, Symone, or Jenny. But when it comes to your trajectory through WashU, prerequisites, if you're pre-med, there's certain prereqs, of course, that you have to take for that. Those types of things, you need to make sure you schedule anytime between now and the middle of July, a meeting with your undergraduate dean advisor. And those 4 advisors are these folks. Let me expand this out a little bit. There are these 4 amazing advisors. I love this point to be able to say, it's not just that we know which division you have advisors in. We know the actual people, and we regularly consult with these 4 advisors on all of the prereqs that we have for Beyond Boundaries, and they're aware of all the prereqs you need for your division. So these 4 advisors, Dean Dirk Killen, Dean Paige LaRose, Dean Melanie Osborne, and Dean Georgia Bennington, all represent mainly the 4 major divisions at WashU. I just actually released a podcast interview of Paige LaRose, and just did an interview of Melanie Osborne not long ago. So that'll be going live, as they say, soon. But before I forget, I want to point out that we have scheduled with them a date. Save the date. It is June 9th at 7 o'clock Central Time. We're going to have all 4 of those advisors on a Zoom call with all of you, basically to have them introduce themselves to you, answer questions you might have about your 4-year path at WashU. So there is that. Are there any questions at this point? I've got a little more content, but I'd love to open it up to questions.
One question in the chat, Rob, and
Oh,
that
yes.
is, when should they schedule a meeting with their advisor?
Well, beginning in early June is when they start doing registration advising meetings. So it would not be bad if you met with them after that June 9th webinar. Not at all bad if you meet with them before then. All of their contact information is on our website. So you simply send them an email. They will send you, all of them, I believe, have a calendar service that you just sign up for a half-hour call with them. And that's how that kind of works. I also want to point out that if you have a question you'd like to ask anonymously, I do this in my classes, feel free to direct message me and I will ask it as an anonymous question if you wish. Chandler, how do you know what times to choose for the BB courses if you haven't chosen your other courses? Also, is the form binding? I'm sorry, I don't know what form you're talking about there, Chandler. There's a couple of them out there. There's an information form that we need from you sooner than we need the one about the courses. So that actually might answer a little bit of your question. You can have your registration advising meeting with your undergraduate dean advisor and then send us the information about which Beyond Boundaries course you'd like to take. There's nothing wrong with going in that order. That makes sense.
Rob, I think
Yes.
in terms of the pre-enrollment, if once you meet with your advisor and you decide, okay, these are the Beyond Boundaries courses I want to take, and then you end up changing, I think that's all right. Down the road, just, be in touch with us and we can move you into those courses.
Yeah. For those that don't know, there's a 3-day basically lottery process for registration for all first-year students in July. So as your choices can change before those 3 dates. Once the doors open on all the Beyond Boundaries courses, those slots get filled quickly by other first-year students. So you all, because you're the only students on campus that have where a Beyond Boundaries course is a requirement for you, you get pre-enrollment. You get first dibs at seats in those classes. So anonymous one here. I don't remember if I marked what I wanted for spring semester BB courses or if I marked the spring semester ones. Okay, so spring semester, you have not received a form for yet. We don't really register you in spring semester classes, meaning spring of 2022, until much later. I want to say October. I think it is, Symone. I think that's somewhere around there. Anyway, so spring semester courses, you are not making those choices yet. Just focus on fall. Is there anywhere we can double check to make sure if we have submitted the info form? Well, there's 2 forms. Again, there's 2 forms. There's a fall course information form not due to the end of June. More importantly, there is what are we calling it, Symone? I'm going to drop it in the chat.
A pre-enrollment.
Yes, a class information form. That's it. I'm going to drop that in the chat right now. That is more importantly for us, just about getting your information for us. Basically everything from t-shirt size to parent contacts, emergency contacts, that type of thing. It may be information that you've filled out in other WashU venues, but just for Beyond Boundaries, we have specific questions, from dietary restrictions, for example. For some of our programming, we want to know if there are dietary restrictions we should be aware of. So make sure you finish this form first. That class of 2025 information form is the more important one. Plenty of time to fill out the other one. Let's see. Are Beyond Boundaries students actually moving in a day before? Yes. I sent an email about this, I believe, or might have dropped it in the group chat. You all move in on August 20th, which is a Friday. I think I have that date right. But you do move in a day early on a Friday, and then we are open to having programming with you in Saturday, and even part of Sunday if we wish. But so we're still figuring out a lot about Bear Beginnings, which is a name for our orientation. You'll find everything is called Bear something. So we will let you know more about specifics about orientation programming and that type of thing, but do plan on moving into Dardic. You all are in the same building for the most part, moving into Dardic, which is part of the Wayman Crow Residential College, on Friday, August 20th. Symone, if you could double check my date there, I think that's the right date.
Yes, that's right, Rob.
Great. Other questions? Let me move on to the next few slides, and then I'll open it up again to questions. In the Beyond brochure, we like to think it's better than any other brochure on campus. The Beyond brochure, there's a 4-year grid, we call it. And so this gives you a snapshot of our program expectations. The most important part here, if I can get my finger in the screen, the most important part here is in year 1. There is a curricular requirement to be in Beyond Boundaries. 7 credits in your first semester, 4 in your second semester. 1 of those credits in each semester is a seminar. As I mentioned, the TAs, or a few of them, are on the call tonight. And then there's a Beyond Boundaries course in each of those semesters. And then college writing. By the way, college writing is something all students at WashU have to take. We just want to make sure it's clear that Beyond Boundaries requires it as well. So that's kind of how that works. Take a close look at that. You are welcome, if you've not already, download the app for the program, and you can get started on basically points. That's the extracurricular aspect of Beyond Boundaries. You are expected to collect 50 points of Beyond Boundaries app related events and things like that over a period of 2 years. So this is a 2-year program with the opportunity, we hope, for you to stay for 2 more years and sort of get another milestone notation on your transcript, as they say. Let's see. Anonymous question here. Should our parents plan to stay at all during the week of Bare Beginnings for any sort of parent orientation or no? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, again, this is all kind of at the moment a little bit on loose ground. Sunday is, I believe that there is parent events going on Sunday at the WashU level. Maybe we could do something on that Saturday, but I believe once that week begins, parents should basically depart and go back wherever home might be. So hopefully that answered that question. I promise you, we'll get as much information as we can as we receive it about how that whole first year. There's a link actually on the Beyond Brochure. I think it's new students now. They've changed the website. Used to be first year. Now it's newstudents.wustl.edu is the website. Be sure to check that frequently. When should I have to take the writing placement exam? Siobhan, I'm not sure. That's a question for your undergraduate dean advisor, unless Jenny, you know this one. I do not know that question, the answer to that question. Nope, I'm gonna guess that none of us do. I would make sure you reach out to your undergraduate dean advisor, whatever division you've declared basically at this point. Remember, you have a wild card in your back pocket to change it, but your undergraduate dean advisor will know all about that writing placement exam. Arte, where do we download the app? Simply go to the Beyond Boundaries website. Let me throw that in the chat. I assume you all have been there many times, I hope. ZB. The Beyond Boundaries website, under resources, there is a student stories tab there, as well as a tab for the app. And you can download the app on Google Play or Apple and drop it and add the app to your collection. If you would, we do ask that you also make sure you don't disable notifications for the app, because a lot of great information Symone puts together personally comes out of the app, and there are notifications that pop up about some great events going on. So do make sure that you've not disabled notifications for that app. Okay, so I mentioned the classes. In the fall semester, there are these courses. You all are required to choose one. You could choose more than one if you want and be pre-enrolled in a pair if you'd like. But these are the classes on the books for this fall. We're very excited about that you all have to choose from. There's a global climate change course called Earth's Future. These are all taught by 2 or more faculty across 2 or more divisions at WashU, and have up to 75 students each, first-year students only, in each of these classes. So there's Earth's Future. There's my class, Design and Creativity. I co-teach with my good friend Bruce Lindsay, who is in the architecture in Sam Fox. A brand new one that launched this spring that's coming back in the fall called Endgame of Entrepreneurship, taught by 4 people. One that's been around for a long time and very popular called When I'm 64 on Aging. That's that 3-person course taught by Brian Carpenter, Dr. Susie Stark, and Dr. Nancy Morrow Howell. And then the Art of Medicine is taught across arts and sciences, and specifically Romance languages, and the Sam Fox School. So these are the classes on that Beyond brochure I sent. I put that together personally. It has it's called an interactive PDF. All of the hyperlinks on that PDF should work for you. So you can listen to podcast episodes of these faculty talking about these classes. Highly recommend you do some research on those and figure out which class or classes you want to take. Symone's happy to enroll you in more than one if you want. And then in the second semester, this is still a little bit in gel form, you might say, but here are the classes you have to choose from in the second semester. There's Gender, Youth, and Global Health. There's a Sustainability class, and a brand new one that's never been taught before on Environmental Racism. And then there are two courses called Bear Bridge courses. Those are the bridge there is a reference to the fact that those two courses have a community engagement component to them. And more importantly than that, they are only open to Beyond Boundaries program students like yourselves. And as you'll see, Assistant Director Jenny Harpring co-teaches the first one on empathy. Do you want to talk about that one at all, Jenny?
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my mute button. Yes, I would love to talk about it. This course is really about problem solving, looking at community engagement and problem solving, and how do we build our own skills in empathy so that when we go forward and try to solve problems, we're including multiple voices and multiple perspectives so that we are really addressing the needs and the changes that need to happen. It's a skills course, so we do a lot of skills building throughout the semester and building empathy and building kind of interactive activities. And then it's also a knowledge course around what is empathy, how we define that, and what are the limits of empathy.
Great. And no, sorry, I almost forgot about the second one. The second Bear Bridge course. Again, the Bear Bridge is a reference to the fact that you're all doing community engagement, and there's essentially field trips, I think they're famously called. Law, Race, and Design, Examining the St. Louis Story is all about basically the cases, Dred Scott case being one of them, that have formed St. Louis in good and bad ways. And so this is co-taught by John Anazu, who is in the law school and the Danforth Center for Religion and Politics. And one of our favorites, Panina Akayo-Laker, teaches Sam Fox School in the Sam Fox School of Design and Visual Arts. She's in communication design, and we're big fans of. You might remember her from the from a webinar we did not long ago. So those are the 5 choices at the moment for the spring. And again, you have to register in at least one of those. Whew, that was a lot of information to throw at you. I don't know how well I did on time, but we're roughly at the half-hour mark. I want to open it up to more questions if you have them. Again, feel free to anonymously ask a question by just direct messaging me in the chat. I'm happy to answer it that way, or unmute, say hello.
We have one in the chat about where students can find this recording later.
Oh, I will be emailing it out. I will be emailing all of you. Trust me, there are a number of you who couldn't make it tonight. I think roughly 20 of you can't. So absolutely, we'll be sharing that probably via email, and I could drop a link in the group chat as well. Other questions? Don't be shy. A lot of information.
So should we just start reaching out to our advisors and talking to them?
Sure, you definitely may, yeah. Or you could, again, you could wait till after the June 9th webinar when you kind of, I guess, virtually meet them. But there's nothing to say that you couldn't reach out sooner. There are a number of them I know. I kind of have, Symone and I keep tabs on their calendars. We're taking some time off. We have commencement on, well, over a period of 2 or 3 days, actually. We have commencements here. Actually, more like 2 weeks. We have the class of 2020 coming back. So there's a lot going on campus right now, and I know a few advisors are taking some time off after that in late May, early June-ish. So yeah, so there's no rush. Again, you have pretty much all of June and half of July to get it on their calendars. But
just so you know, the official period of advising starts June 5th. So you're not late if you wait until then, and then our webinar with them is June 9th. So you have some chances to think about things.
Yeah, thank you, Symone. We had a question here. Should we start using our Woostel email? Yes. That is the only email. It is secure, basically, from a point of view of faculty to student communications and things like that. You should definitely get in a habit of using your Woostel email address very soon. If you didn't notice, we call it Woostel. W-U-S-T-L. It's just easier to say as Woostel. Anonymous question here. Are we allowed to register for multiple BB courses in one semester? Absolutely. Absolutely. I get kind of excited. I jump up and down when students are interested in that. We've had a number of students do that. You can be pre-enrolled in both. So it's kind of a win-win. If you'd like, if there's a couple of them that really trip your trigger, as we say in Texas, feel free to do that. Let's see. The sort of second part of the question, are these courses elective credits or do they count towards a major? They do count towards a major. They, in many cases, have attributes associated with them that satisfy different types of requirements. For example, humanities aspects and things like that. So they're pretty popular classes, which is why we want to make sure you get your seat in those classes before the open registration period in July. Should we fill out the first year program applications due tomorrow? Oh, there's been a lot of questions about first year programs. Let me be very clear about that. So on the FAQ of our website, we for a couple of reasons, students in this program, Beyond Boundaries, are not allowed to be in ampersand programs. There are two reasons for that. One of them is many of those ampersand programs have curricular requirements to them as well. For example, Medicine Society, which we affectionately call MedSoc for short, has curricular requirements. So there's no way you can also do our curricular requirements and theirs and get everything else in and not exceed, and we really try to stress this, not exceed 15 or 16 credits in your first semester. So that's part of it. Plus, we also want to make sure that WashU programs are generally available to all. So being part of a program already here, we want to make sure other students have opportunities who are not in Beyond Boundaries. So, but you can be in a first year seminar. You just have to wait until the July registration to be in a first year seminar. So want to make sure that's absolutely clear. So ampersand programs, not available to you. First year seminars are available to you, but not till July. Let's see, where's the form to sign up for Beyond Boundaries courses? Everything we have, our Beyond Boundaries website has a specific tab called Student Forms and Information. And on that tab, there's all the student forms you could possibly want that Symone is always working on, actually. And so our forms for that, including the, let's see, I don't see it here, class of 2025. Here it is for pre-enrollment. That pre-enrollment form for the class for incoming fall 2021, I can drop in the chat right now. Sorry, I'm trying to do 4 things at once, but boom. Just dropped it in the chat. Symone, make sure that's the right form. Let's see. When do we start picking fall BB courses? I think I answered that question, Joaquin. You start picking them right away, at least have a sense of which ones you'd like to do, but feel free to wait until after your advisor meeting with your undergraduate dean advisor to actually fill out the form I just dropped in the chat. General question for anyone who can answer about how many classes do students take a semester? Good question. As I said, 15 to 16 credits. Any of the TAs want to answer this one? Rachel or Jimmy or Aviva?
I think Aviva put in the chat.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like Rob said, advisors generally recommend you take like 14, 15, or 16, like as a freshman, just because there's a lot going on and like you want to do clubs and like the classes might be challenging. You know, it's a big transition, but you know, you don't have to. Technically, you need 12 to be a full-time student, and you can't go over 21, or you have to like pay more money, and just you can't go over 21. It's too much. And like Rob says, like the Beyond Boundaries classes easily fit into those in your first year, so like don't stress about that at all. And as he kind of mentioned, it satisfies a lot of requirements later on without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Also, like.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Please do.
I would look at the, I didn't think of this when I was looking at my Beyond Boundaries classes. I just like liked them, but they like inadvertently like filled, like if you was saying certain requirements for my major that usually would require like maybe classes that are less interesting to me in some sense. So like if like you're really torn of which class to take and it comes to that, like you could look at the department or like the requirement it's doing for your major. And like that's not great, but all the Beyond Boundaries classes are amazing. So if you're actually torn, like, and you feel like a little like, I don't know, like I didn't think of that when I looked, but.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. It's important to point out that Beyond Boundaries courses are only available to first year students. So you can't take them as second, third, or fourth year students. So, you know, take them before the window closes. Yes, please.
Question. I was just looking at the form, the pre-enrollment form that you dropped in the chat, and it's on the last question, it says to please select only one of the Beyond Boundaries Fall 2021 courses. So, and then you just said that we could pick more than one, so I was kind of confused about that.
You can. I would just fill out the form twice. Would that be wise, Symone?
Sure, I can also, I don't know, I'm happy to edit the form if that's helpful and say choose all that apply.
Yeah, well, it looks like you can click more than one checkbox. It just says in the question to please select
Okay.
only one. So I just wasn't sure.
Thank you. I'm happy to take that piece out of it, and then you guys can check as many. Thank you.
Sure. Question here about Deneb Stars. Yes, absolutely. You can be in Deneb Stars and be in Beyond Boundaries as well. You can be in our scholars programs as well, like Rodriguez, Irvin, Danforth Scholars programs. You can be in those programs and be in Beyond Boundaries at the same time. We have students like Tinuola who's in both. So definitely you can be in Deneb Stars, which is a great program. Ruth Ann Dunn, who I did a podcast interview of, is a Deneb Star, and she will be called... She just got a new gig with Deneb Stars. I think it's called Aspirational Peer Mentor, an APM with Deneb Stars. So be sure to reach out to Ruth Ann if you have questions about Deneb. Advisors generally oh yeah, thank you, Aviva, for that clarification. You do technically need 12 credits to be a full-time student. Also important to know. Great. Wow, that was a flurry of questions, but all good ones. If there are no others, I want to make sure I move along, because what we'd like to do here is actually have you all meet each other. We thought we might throw some breakout rooms together very quickly and have you all get a chance to talk to each other. And while I'm setting that up, Jenny, do you want to go through what the prompt might be for students in those rooms?
Yeah, so we wanted just to give you a little bit of time to connect, meet your new classmates. And so kind of your standard name, where are you geographically in the world right now? A little bit about your kind of Beyond Boundaries interest. So, maybe what you wrote your application essay about, how you're thinking about things in an interdisciplinary way. And then Rob, remind me, what was the last prompt? It was, hang on, I'm just finding this out. What are you bringing from your current home to decorate your dorm room? Are they some like light up letters like this? What are you bringing from home for your dorm room? What's one possession you cannot live without that's coming with you? So with that in mind, let me just open up these rooms. And just, again, very informally, and TAs or future TAs for the fall, feel free to go in these rooms as well and get to know students. So I'm going to open up, I think, about 8 rooms, and you're being assigned automatically. So just get to know each other a little bit better, okay? And we'll put you in there for, let's say, about 10 minutes. Alrighty, here we go. All right, great to have you all back. Before I forget, I noticed Campbell Sharp joined us. Campbell Sharp is one of the 6 TAs in the Beyond Boundaries seminar. Campbell, if you want to say hello, you're in the car now, as long as it's safe.
Yeah, I am in a car. I was visiting my grandma for the first time, so we talked a bit long. But yeah, I'm Campbell. I am from Chicago. And my Beyond Boundaries question was about fashion sustainability, but I'm going to be majoring in English with a creative writing concentration and maybe having minors in business or design. So we will see. If I am able, I will try to get a degree from 3 of the 4 WashU schools. Anyway, it's
I think that's great. Welcome. All right, so you had a chance to meet up with each other. Are there any other questions before we sort of allow you back to the remainder of your Sunday? Any questions that you want to ask? Feel free to drop them in the chat, unmute, whatever might like to do. Did these conversations spur any questions, further questions about the program? I noticed Symone was in a room too. What time on June 9th is the webinar? That is at 7 p.m. Central Time. So 8 o'clock Eastern. What is that? 5 o'clock Pacific? Look, I can do math. I'm a designer, but I can still do math. But yeah, that's when that's coming up. We'll send all that information to you as we kind of get things going. The link will probably be this link. The one is my sort of personal ID. But it's a great opportunity to meet all four of those advisors. Speaking of, as I alluded to earlier, we are doing a series, or I am doing a series of podcast interviews of our undergraduate dean advisors. Recently published is the one with Olin Business School Dean Paige LaRose. I will probably put the one from Melanie Osborne, we just recorded over the weekend, online tomorrow. And then Georgia Bennington, I think, is coming up next week as well. So you'll kind of get a sense of who they are, even just in the podcast. So again, the podcast is on Podcats. Not like Podcats. Podcast. The link for that is on the website. So do subscribe if you'd like. All right. I think, Jenny, am I forgetting anything? Any important information that you want to know?
The only other thing I'd say is that you have both of our contact information in the brochure and on the website. So don't hesitate to reach out to either of us or both of us, and we're happy to set up meetings, to answer quick questions over email. Did you want to talk a little bit about the use of the group chat versus use of email?
Thank you for reminding me. There's one more thing I want to leave you all with, and that is the group chats. As you know, there are two of them that you're in. There's one for this very class of 2025, and there's one for all the Beyond Boundaries students. Generally, there's a couple of rules I'd like to sort of put in your brain. One of them is it does kind of sometimes go crazy at very late hours. I'm not going to be answering group chat questions at 12:30 at night or whatever it might be when questions drop in there. I usually do those in the morning. So keep that in mind. Also, before you drop a question into the group chat, I'd like you to ask yourself, is this better as an email? Because in many cases, a student has a question that really would be easier for me to forward to, let's say, an undergraduate dean advisor, for example, and say, oh, Dean Bennington, what do you think about this question from this student about this topic that's related to Sam Fox School? That's a much easier for me on that end to sort of think about that or forward it along. Nothing wrong with screen capturing your question and sending them an email, but it does involve some more steps. So think about that. Questions that are applicable that you think a lot of students like yourself want to know the answer to, feel free to drop those in the group chat so that everyone sees the answer as well as the question. But if it's more specific, if you think it may need to be forwarded to someone in residential life or in that area, just do send an email to myself or to Symone Picker, and we'll make sure that you get your question answered. We had one recently about printers available in the dorm, and I don't know the answer to that. And we're finding that answer out very soon, I think, if we haven't already, about the dorm you'll be in. Any other questions before we let you go? Feel free to stay a little bit longer if you have more of a one-on-one question for myself or Jenny or Symone or any of the TAs on the call. Thank you, TAs, for being here. But congratulations again on being in the Beyond Boundaries program. It's a special group, and you all are no exception. So thanks for your time.